That's Brittany.
That's Jonathan.
All right, today we're going to be doing the Sabbath portion of the Connecting to Life from Lesson 3. And Lesson 3 is talking about Eli's bad boys. So we're going to start by reading Proverbs 22, verse 6. And that is found in the punchline section of the lesson. Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. Proverbs 22, verse 6. All right, now we're going to do the ranking activity in the What Do You Think section of this week's lesson. You want to read it?
So it says to rank the following authority figure roles in order of importance. Why does it change boldness in the middle of the sentence? Okay. Rank the following authority figure roles in order of importance for the different stages of life. So for formative years from birth to age 8, let's just start with that. So the options there are teacher, role model, disciplinarian, caregiver, friend, parent/guardian.
So which would be most important? And which
From birth to 8?
Yeah.
Obviously your parent.
Yeah, I put parent as number 1. Next, I'd have to say, what's a disciplinarian?
I have no idea.
Isn't that supposed to be your parents? Like, this is one person, like, I'm a disciplinarian. Dude, I'm just gonna
Maybe it's like at school, like there's like
probably
the like lunch ladies that get mad at you for no reason.
Caregiver.
So that what is it? This is like from the 1800s when they had like a nanny for every need of a child. Like,
I'm pretty sure it's not like that. So parent/guardian. Next, I think would be role model. Because when you think of it this way, you should rank it in the people who have the most impact in that child's life. Okay? And after parents, their role model is extremely important because that's who they're going to try to emulate and look up to and try to, do everything that they're doing. So that role model, that choice of role model, who they have for a choice of role model is super important.
so the way I see it though is like if you go to school, you're not homeschooled, then parents and teachers are the ones that have the most impact on what kids learn and how they develop character-wise. And then their friends also have an aspect on that. But nowadays, I feel like teachers almost have more of an impact on kids than their parents do because they're at school more than they're with their parents.
To a certain extent. Yeah. I agree with that. Most kids are at school more than they're at home. And if the parents aren't doing any parenting at home, then it's up to the teachers.
Which it shouldn't be that way, but it kind of is.
So yeah, parent 1, teacher 2, friend 3, role model 4, caregiver 5, and disciplinarian 6.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same authority figures for primary school years, ages 9 to 15, and youth through young adult, which is 16 to 25. And 9 to 15...
At 9 to 15, that's a big age gap.
Yeah. I think it should almost remain the same.
It should remain the same, but I feel like from like 13 to like 17, you stop looking to your parents for guidance and you start looking to your friends more. Not necessarily because you're supposed to, but that's just kind of what people do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think that as a parent, you should try to stay involved in your kids' lives between those ages as much as possible to remind them that you're there, because they will go look for that guidance elsewhere, and if you're not giving it to them, if you're not readily open to giving it to them, if they have to go looking for it, they won't go looking for it. They'll take it from someone else.
I've seen this happen a bunch of times where kids will go and ask their parents a question, and their parents, because that was the way they were taught, will tell them you shouldn't ask those questions and just to not answer the kids' questions. And because of that, youth in the church are prone to seek questions elsewhere. If you're not getting answers in one source, you're going to turn to a different source to find the answer to your questions, and that might not always be a viable source. That could lead to asking the wrong person and being led down a dangerous path.
And especially with technology nowadays, if if your child goes and asks you, let's say about sex, and you're not willing to answer those questions, the internet exists, and they'll find the answers that aren't the right answers, but they're still answers.
Mm-hmm.
And then they base their knowledge off of what they found online, and that has a detrimental impact on the rest of their relationships for the rest of their life.
Yeah. Porn is a real thing. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Don't think you can you can fight it by not telling your kids the questions they're asking, because they will find out.
Honestly, I feel like a lot of parents do that. They avoid talking about it altogether, thinking that they can
It'll just solve itself.
But that makes it so much worse. You have to sit down with your kids and explain it to them, and explain to them the beauties and the actual purpose of everything, instead of letting them figure it out through the internet, because the internet's just going to tell them that it's this, like, I don't even know.
Just disgusting, nothing but pleasure seeking, lusting after the flesh of an activity.
Yeah.
We'll let you guys fill out the other stages. So primary school years 9 to 15, and youth through young adults 16 to 25. And at the end, they ask the question, why did you rank the above rules differently at different stages? What do you think is the most critical stage of character building? So the last question. Most critical stage of character building is in between. I actually have to say it's probably the last part. Youth through young adults is really when you develop your character and refine it more. Because from ages like 9 to like 17, your character is like being formed, but like it doesn't actually develop into who you are until much later. So yeah, let us know what you think is the most critical stage for character building. Let's move on. The What Do You Think section of this week's lesson challenges you to think about how parents impact children throughout the different stages of growth. What are some examples of ideal training?
Ideal training.
Well, how do you train a child? It's an ideal training. And don't
very broad question.
It is. And guys, don't look at training as a bad word. Everyone is trained, everyone gets trained, everyone seeks training. We seek it in school, we get it at work, we get trained at home, at school, at Sabbath school, at work. Everyone goes through training. Alright. No one becomes a black belt master by not training.
And I mean, honestly, that might be a good way to look at it. You're training to be like Christ, to be the best person that you can possibly be. And don't look at it as
Christ had chores.
But don't look at it as I'm being trained to be this specific person. Look at it as you're willingly training to become that amazing person that you're supposed to be.
Because you can fight against your parents and try to go against what they say, just like you cannot train at the gym. Will it get you to where you want to go? Probably not. So it's best that you listen to them. They may not, I'm not saying every parent knows 100% what they're talking about and is 100% right all the time. But for the most part, their experience outweighs yours a whole heap ton, and they're just trying to keep you from making the same stupid mistakes they did, whether they're in the church or not. They're trying to make sure that you're not making the same dumb things that they did, and to help you get to where you want to go in life. So think of some examples of ideal training. Just respect. One thing that I was taught in my household is the respectful are respected. You can't expect to be respected unless you respect others. And it's hard when people are all up in your face and annoying, but you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself.
I think the only rule that I had in my house that was like a good thing was kill them with kindness. Just be kind to everyone, no matter what they're doing to you.
Smother them with that kindness.
Yeah.
Drown them in love. I agree with that one. So yeah, those are a couple of ideas. Let us know what your ideas are. What are some of the ways that your parents fulfilled some of these roles in your upbringing? How did that training impact your life?
So I think what they're trying to say here is that, like, in the thing there, we were kind of talking about that earlier, how teacher, caregiver, role model, disciplinary, that's all parents. Like, it can all be your parent, right? So they play all those different roles. Mm-hmm. It's all the same person, but they have different roles. So
how did they fulfill some of these roles in your upbringing? How did that training impact life? So I find that in the formative years, birth to age 8 is when, and I've seen this happen, when parents try to fill only one role, actually technically 3 of the roles, and they forget the other 3. And that's, they try to be a caregiver, a friend, and a parent. And they completely abandon teacher, role model, and disciplinarian.
Okay.
And that's usually what sets the stage for wreckage and just fallout. It's sad to hear that parents are showing up to job interviews, ask to help their kids through job interviews, or going back and asking employers, why didn't you hire my child? Excuse me? What? The fact that you're calling me is the reason why I'm not hiring your child. But it's true. It was. I remember it being on the news that employers are getting phone calls from parents saying, you should hire my child for this and this reason, or why didn't you hire my child at this interview? Because your child did not fit my needs and requirements. And because of what you set the stage for in the first years, it's going to impact the second years and just completely settle everything for the last years. Because it's like building a house. If you build it with a really garbage foundation, the structure's going to be crooked, and when you try to put the roof on the top, it's just going to collapse on top of itself. You're going to have a big heaping mess there.
I think that a good way to look at that is that those 6 different roles that are there, as a parent, you should try to balance those 6 roles into your parenting. If you're missing even just one, then you're missing a key part to your child's character building.
Indeed, I agree. And sometimes you'll need to focus on some more than others, which is why you have to rank them. So at some stages, like at the end of the primary school years, and especially throughout the youth, you should be more of a role model and a teacher. Mm-hmm. That's when you're going to need to teach them the last things possible before they head out the door. You want to be the role model through the primary years, and you want to be the disciplinarian and caregiver through birth to age 8.
I think that also with the role model part of it, you want to always be a role model. That whole do as I say, not as I do thing will not get your children to be good people.
No. If you're going to talk the talk, you better walk the walk.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're going to tell them to do something, you better make sure that you are living your life accordingly. Don't tell them to go to church if you sit at home on the Sabbath morning watching a sports game in your PJs. If you're going to tell them that they need to go to Sabbath school, you better be in Sabbath school. If you're going to tell them they need to be sitting in church, you better be sitting in church. Mm-hmm. And I think, that's the most important thing, is to make sure that you do as you say.
And it can be with not even like spiritual things too, right? I know that as a kid, my parents used to tell me all the time that I needed to eat healthier and eat better. But then they would sit at 8 o'clock every night. They would sit in front of the TV with a bowl of chips each. Like, don't tell me to eat better if you're just going to stuff your face.
And if you want your kids to be healthy and active, you better be healthy and active. And you're tired from a day's work, doesn't matter. As people who are parents, or people who are going to become parents or future parents, if you're thinking of eventually raising another life form, make sure that you be the best example they have, because that's who they're looking up to. That's they lock eyes on you and they're like, oh, this is what I need to be like. Make sure that you are that person who's Sabbath school, who's healthy, who's working hard, so they learn good work ethics and good manners and stuff like that, and how to treat people and how to treat your significant other, because they'll take that and apply that to their lives. So if you treat your significant other like garbage, so will they. You're just creating another really good human or really awful human.
Because kids end up being either exactly like you or the exact opposite of you. And usually when you're a good parent, they end up being just like you. But also when you're a really bad parent, they also end up most likely just like you. More often than not. And then there's the odd one that's like, nope, I'm changing everything, and switches everything up.
Yeah. So let us know and think about what are some of these roles in your upbringing, and how did they impact your training? All right. What did your parents use more? What roles did they use more during your life, from birth till now? Were they a teacher more? Were they more of a role model, disciplinarian, caregiver, friend, or were they just a parent or guardian? All right. So let us know. Study hard. Make sure that you guys are ready for this coming Sabbath lesson. And that's all.
Stay in school.
Sabbath school. Stay in Sabbath school.